Hello. So today I wanted to talk about some of my comics hell yes, like the things that basically give a comic bonus points. Like you see it and you're just like, my enjoyment has already gone up a notch. And then on the other side of that, I want to talk about some of the things that really bother me in a comic that really bother take away from my enjoyment when I'm reading a comic. Not to say that I will dislike a comic if it has any of these, but it does put it at a disadvantage for my enjoyment for sure. So, starting out with a positive, I really love when creators play with the formatting aspects where there's a lot of variety visually in terms of all those formatting and structural elements. Chris Ware does a lot of stuff with that. He even has things that are like not even in like a book format, like building stories sounds super interesting to me. I have not been able to get my hands on that yet, but it looks awesome. You can just see when a creator is playing around with what can be done, where there's differences in how busy a page is and the way that the space is used. I love that visual variety. So, getting into pet peeves, I really dislike when a cover has art that doesn't match the vibe, the feel, the look of the actual comic. It just doesn't match the guts. And the example that I'm going to use for this is Why the Last Man. Every single cover page that I saw, the feel of the cover is just so off from how I feel like the inside of the book is. It just feels like this guy is not our main guy. This guy, the vibe of him on the covers is just not the same guy that we're following throughout the whole series. It just doesn't match. Even the monkey just like it's not the same monkey. It just because there's that difference in art style and just like the way that their faces are, like the feel that they put off, they just feel like different characters on the cover. So, yeah, I guess it kind of bothers me as you're reading through and like you just get hit with all these covers that don't feel right. So on the flip side of that, something I really love is when a cover feels like an extra bit of the comic itself. And funny enough, my example for my gripe was from Brian K. Vaughan's Why the Last Man, and as the thing that I love is another Brian K. Vaughan with Fiona Staples, Saga. So I love how the covers for Saga they match so well. Like it's like every cover is done by Fiona Staples and you're seeing like an extra picture for that issue with each cover and I really like that. Like this one, I really like that the cover is giving us kind of a sense of like the vibe and the time that we're in, but it's also like its own image, and we don't see this image that I can recall throughout the actual comic itself. This is just like a tie into when we are, where we are, and I really appreciate that. So I'm gonna pick on Why the Last Man again. Um, Another thing that really bothers me is when the art style changes throughout a comic, and it just feels like the art doesn't have a sense of identity, if that makes sense. There's no consistent feel to the art, and it bothers me. Sometimes it'll just be like, even differences within like shading and the coloring aspects can make a really big difference in how the illustration feels. And I noticed that with Why the Last Man, like why the Last Man kind of has two main creators, being Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerra. Hopefully, I'm saying her name right. But there's also several other people who are working on the art. And at certain points, there's a little bit more or less of Pia's contributions. And it just feels different throughout the whole series. I like the general vibe of the art. But there's times that characters kind of start looking a little different, just kind of randomly. And it sticks out to me. It does give me a little bit of resistance as I'm going through it. I did enjoy this series. Like, I am bashing on it for two things, but honestly, I did quite like this series. I also just finished reading the first couple of volumes of Fables, and the art team did change a bit between the two volumes, which is a bit jarring to me. As a heck yeah, I do like if there's changes to the art style that are intentional, where it's like the artist, like if there's so where there's like a main artist and they end up drawing in a different style or using a different medium, and it's for a purpose. Like there is a specific reason, like they are, say, drawing something like a kid drew it. I absolutely adore that when a comic artist will like draw something like their character would be drawing it. That's something that gets me like every time. Absolutely adore it. But to kind of tie these two things together, I also really liked when in Sweet Tooth, Jeff Lemire took some time off from the art of the comic, and the time that that was done, they actually wrote in this backstory. So we weren't seeing the same characters, we weren't seeing the same time period. So a change in the art style for that felt like so much more natural. Like it felt more intentional, and I really appreciated that. Another thing that really takes me out, that really ruins my submersion into a comic is when the dialogue just feels so unnatural, where it just doesn't feel quite right. That can really ruin the experience, especially like when it's like I can suspend my belief for so many things, right? Like if you're reading a story, you're like, okay, sure, I'll accept this reality. I'll accept all these things, but at least make it feel believable in like the way that the characters behave. And for me, like when it feels like that just doesn't seem like how people really talk and interact, it just doesn't work for me. So one thing that I really appreciate is when small details are used to really give you an extra appreciation for like a time and a place, and they make the comic feel more real. So as an example, I found like with Ducks by Kate Beaton, we can see that the art isn't super hyper detailed a lot of the time, but there are little details that do add to the sense of where you are. Like even just like here, there's like a little piece of garbage coming out of the garbage can. Or it would be like there's this one part where there's just a panel that is showing footprints on the floor. And my partner, when he was reading that, was like, oh, yeah, that is exactly what that type of room would look like with like all these boot prints on the floor like that. Like that was so real to him for like throwing you back into the location that Kate Beaton is sharing with you. So yeah, it's these like little details that add a little bit of extra enjoyment or a little bit of extra appreciation when I can notice them or when somebody calls them out. Like that's one of my favorite things for my partner to notice. Like if he'll call those things out sometimes even better than I do, where it'll be like, oh, look at this little detail. And it's just such an enjoyable part of reading comics for me. Even little nods to like comics. I really love when a comic has like somebody reading a comic in the comic. I don't know. I think it's cute. It's maybe overdone a little bit, but I still love it. Like I talked about before, I appreciate variety with formatting. But something that does bother me is when we lose things to the middle. Like something is killing the children. Sometimes there's times where there's stuff that gets lost in here. There's a gutter area that is missing and we can't really see enough right there. And it feels like there isn't enough consideration for all the different formats that the comic might be consumed in. Um, and it's not like the biggest deal, but sometimes it does feel quite frustrating when you're like trying to get into the comic and actually take in as much as you can, but it just feels like that part of the experience hasn't been thought about enough. Obviously, when you have a single issue, like a magazine that can kind of open all the way up, and I can appreciate that, like, especially with like a full two-page spread, for example, you have to lose a little bit to that. But I think there's some artists who are a little bit more considerate of that. Like an Ice Cream Man, they will sometimes have things go all the way to the middle, but they also have like a nice gutter area. So I feel like the things that go all the way, they add for the look of the page, but they don't take away details that you really wanted to see. So another thing that really gives me the ick, that just ruins my enjoyment a little bit, ruins my ability to pick up a book sometimes, is the outer texture and sometimes page texture. So, page texture, it's more like if I feel like there's a lot of differences in the page graininess and stuff across the pages, sometimes that will bother me. But what really bothers me, what really grinds my gears, is covers. Ugh, like this is so difficult for me to even touch right now to show you. Um, this is like a sandpapery texture. I don't know who made the decision to do this for the cover because I absolutely hate this dust jacket. The actual book beneath the dust jacket is lovely. I absolutely adore this. However, this jacket, oh my goodness. Yeah, that is gross. It sounds gross. Like, I don't know how well you can hear that, but this sounds disgusting and it's got like a gross grit to it. Um, yeah, it's not for me. That's for sure. The nice thing is, like, if you get a library book, generally they're going to have a like plastic cover over top of it if it's hardcover. But if you are like feeling physical hardcovers, sometimes that does come up for me. Um, Even this, like Why the Last Man, and some of Vertigo's other like deluxe hardcovers, they have like a thicker, papery textured dusk jacket, which sometimes changes in texture. Like I think there was one of these that had a different texture, and it's just like it's kind of weird if you're a texture person. It's another thing I really love are small, consistent teams. So I love when a comic is kind of done by the same creators the whole way through, where it just has a visual identity. It has cohesion. It feels like there is a consistent team behind it, and you can kind of tell. So, as an example, Ice Cream Man has so much variety to it. Like any issue, you're just getting into a surprise, basically. And it could kind of have a very different structural aspect. It could be very different formatting wise. Um, but there's also a consistency because we have the same team behind it. So we've got the same writer, artist, colorist, and the same letterer. So with that, it's like it's got a lot of variety, but it feels like it still has an identity, even though there's that variety. So another example is like Saga with Fiona Staples, Brian K. Vaughan, and they also have a consistent letterer, Fantagraphics, throughout the whole thing. And that gives this its own identity. It feels like it would be totally wrong for you to just change the artist. Like I don't think you could. It just would not feel right. Another thing that really takes me out is poor legibility, like when the writing, the font, it's just like so hard to read. Anytime, yeah, that it's just like it feels like like Chris Ware, I do have to say, he does lose a little bit of points for the legibility aspects just because things are so, so tiny. So as my final positive that I'll go through for this video, I absolutely adore when the art has a wow factor, when the art is just so good on its own that like even if the story is kind of mid, you're like, I'm honestly not upset. Like the art is just so freaking good that like I will forgive a little bit less ideal writing. Um, and not to say that it necessarily does have poor writing, but yeah, when the art is just fantastic. So an example of that for me is like Black Sad. This It's just like the artwork in Black Sad is so stunning. Um, and the stories, like, sometimes I think they're okay, they're solid. Um, and there's also the aspect of like translation with Black Sad, but like holy crap, the art in those books is just so good. Like it is just beautiful. And like you can spend so long on each panel just taking in like how beautiful and detailed the art is. So that's an example. Another one for me was My Favorite Thing is Monsters, where like the style with the ballpoint pen and all of the details that can come from that. Oh my gosh, that like just stunning in terms of art. So even if I hadn't enjoyed the story of it, if I didn't enjoy the writing, like the art is just so good alone that it's like, I will put up with a little bit more, you know? So that's a few of my pet peeves and my things that I really enjoy with comics. There's so many more, but I just thought I would make a bit of a list just going through some. Let me know what some of yours are. Take care. Bye.